With our time on Minmus concluded, it's time to head back to Kerbal. We just need to make our burn here, and we will be set. We'll just skim the surface. Back to the drawing board. This is Echo 3, and let's continue our modded career mode discussion. YouTuber Reinhart recommended that I build a seaplane. He saw a mission on the video and said, hey, try the seaplane mission. I thought that's a great idea. We'll do that one and we'll break the sound barrier. There's also one more contract, and it is a naval contract where we have to fly to several different checkpoints as well as land and take off from the water again. So it's the same goals, just two different contracts, so we can get twice the pay for the same mission. Makes sense to me. Now we'll throw together a little plane here. I don't need to go into all the details about how I make planes. You guys have seen me make quite a few already. In this case though, this one needs to be able to land and take off from the water. And I really struggled with that. But this design, I think, will succeed where all my other attempts have failed. Now I've got the canards there at the front, which will help pitch up the craft while we're trying to take off from the water. We have the Panther engine, which can go into afterburning mode and really provide a lot of thrust, as well as it's got thrust vectoring, which should help get enough of a tilt on our craft that we can get up and out of the water. So with our control surfaces and thrust vectoring and lots of thrust, I think we will be able to take off again from the water without any issues. Make sure the right Kerbals are on our craft. We can be good to go. One other thing I like to do with afterburning engines is I like to bind that to the RCS. If I don't have any other thing to use RCS for, I will bind afterburning mode to the RCS. We don't have any reaction thrusters, so might as well do that, and it just makes switching between the two modes easier. And we just need to fly to Site Alpha and just do whatever the instructions say there. I think we just need to fly there, and we can break the sound barrier on the way there. We aren't even in afterburning mode, and this thing's got plenty of thrust. Okay, we have completed our first objective, flew to Alpha, now we fly to Bravo. This seems pretty easy, and by doing this contract from the Navy, it should open up future contracts from the Navy. Fly to checkpoint Charlie, there we go. Now you can see these points are a little ways apart, so it took a little bit of time to fly this, but not too much. This jet's pretty quick. And then we just need to fly to Point Delta, where we need to land and take off again from the water. So we'll just fly over there. Kind of nice to use up a little bit of fuel, make our plane a little lighter. Take it easy on this landing. Don't want to hit the water too hard, break anything. So I'll try and use some maneuvers here and throw as much speed before we stall and land on the water. Here we go. Yeah, it's completed. Water landing's completed. Now we need to take our naval observer back to the naval station. So we will fly there, get this thing out of the water, use the afterburning mode there a little bit. Here is the naval air station, and if you remember from the map, it is just south of the island airfield, so pretty easy to get to. I like this runway. It's long, it's easy to use, so I kind of like holding contracts here because I like landing here. Easy, even in cockpit view there. All right, now we just need to fly back to the Space Center. The naval contract required us to land here, but I don't have to recover the vessel from here, where the other contract requires me to recover the vessel back at the Space Center. So we got all our boxes checked for the Navy. Now we land here, and we'll just take it easy. We'll park here at the terminal, recover our vessel, and that should complete all three contracts with one mission. Now, I think we need some more science. There's lots of cool nodes to unlock, so let's go back to Mission Control and pick some new contracts. Now, we have been to the Mun, we have landed on them. We have been in orbit around Minmus. I think it's time we land on Minmus and try to get as much science from a landing there as we can. So we'll go to Mission Control, and there are several Minmus contracts. Here's one to land, and that looks pretty good. What else can we do while we're landed there? We have this one to survey a particular site and get multiple experiments from the one site. We have to take a scientist with us for this contract, which works great anyway. We'll take it, and then there's another one, scanning arm contract. For it, we need to scan some olivine. Perfect. all those are in the lowlands anyway, so we can do this in just one area. Now we need to build a craft capable of getting everything there and ideally returning, because, you know, that's kind of the point. And I really struggled with this particular design. Initially, I tried to make more of a traditional space shuttle design, where the main engine on this would also be used in the atmosphere, and that wasn't working overly well. I had trouble with stability. We don't have the vector engine unlocked yet, so none of the engines available have more than 3 degrees of vectoring ability, and it may take off very difficult. So I'm gonna have to scrub that idea. What I'm building right now is a rover, because I want to scan some olivine, and I don't know how close to our landing site it's going to be. So this little rover will let us move around and get close to the structure as needed. We'll throw on a command seat, a few science experiments, so we can check a few things out. And this rover really is not complicated. And with really any design, keeping it simple is generally the best idea possible. You can see this is not a complicated, it's not a heavy rover, it's actually very light, but it'll be capable of doing everything I need it to do. Now I'm flipping it upside down, which you might think that's kind of weird. Why would I flip that upside down? Because I actually intend to flip the cargo bay upside down. Now the rover's right side up. When we get to Minmus, we can just drop the rover out of the bottom of our space plane here, and that will work well for us. Kind of a cargo bay that drops as opposed to coming out the top. If it came out the top, I'd have to get kind of crazy with some kind of RCS thrusters or some way to push this thing out, or I'd have to fly upside down and drop this thing. This makes it a lot simpler. I'm going to put a couple RCS thrusters on the front of our space plane so we can get our nose up. I'm really thinking as far as taking off from Minmus, I might need to nose up a little bit, and that'll help me do that to have a cleaner takeoff, because there's no atmosphere for producing lift. You've seen me make lots of planes before. This is similar, again, to some of those ideas. I don't need to be too complicated, as the wings are going to be useless in the vacuum of space anyway, but it should let us land safely back on Kerbal. There's some solar panels on here. I'm going to put them on the back. These parts are kind of draggy, so if I have them on the back, having drag on the back helps keep the craft stable. Now that center of lift indicator doesn't really account for drag, and that's why you gotta just be careful with your designs. I switched over to a vacuum engine, and now I'm just going to put a massive booster on the bottom, because I couldn't get a shuttle design to work, so we'll just put a big booster and just hopefully take off okay with it. These seem to be kind of like the Raptor-like engines, so I really liked them. They do a pretty good job there. Now, because we have so much wing on the aircraft part, on the spaceplane part, we need to put a lot of wing surface for stability on our booster section. I'm going to have these massive wings on here just to hopefully not lose control on ascent. Because I switched this over from the spaceplane hangar to the vehicle assembly building, it doesn't always do a great job transferring the center of aerodynamic pressure indicator, so kind of just guessing and hoping it was about right. And we seem pretty stable on ascent. I'm assuming that means we are in good shape. So we will take off here and hopefully get into orbit just fine. It looks like we are, and we've got plenty of delta V there. Not worried. We'll just drag out our maneuver node here, get close to Minmus. You can see my closest approach marker is basically directly over where Minmus would be. So what I'll do then is we'll burn out to our apoapsis out to where Minmus orbit is, and then we'll make a mid-course correction. So we'll just kind of change our inclination and approach Minmus and try to get a pretty close approach. I want to keep it around 10,000 meters, and we'll just make our injection burn here. We'll need to wait a little bit for our orbit to line up with the target destination, so I waited a little while, and while I did that, I did some EVA reports and just cut that out. So we're going to get quite a bit of science that you haven't seen me gather, because it was just boring while I did like 10 orbits waiting for things to line up well. Minmus is so low gravity that this thing has plenty of thrust to land easily. Just gonna have no problems, even if we land on the engine bell and let us fall back onto our landing gear. And we're actually kind of uphill from our landing site where we need to be, so we'll just coast downhill to our target location. It's pretty easy here. Now, you see me dodging these rocks. They don't actually have collision, so this is just for fun. We are really close. There we go. Take it easy. And we are at our target location. We'll hit the brakes. We'll drop our rover, and we'll start doing the science that we need for our contract. Let me get this rover out. We'll just kind of use our RCS thrusters and bump up a little bit while we roll down the hill. There we go. Perfect. Have our scientists get out and do all the science we can. I'm hoping to get a lot of science from this mission. You know, something maybe close to 1,000 units of science from this. I think that's very possible. All right, we got all of the science experiments we needed for the one contract. We still need to do the olivine scan. So we'll take our rover out and look for an olivine formation somewhere. I didn't see any close, so we're gonna have to explore. And I do explore for a while, and this rover is not fast. It works, it's just not fast. And it doesn't have any reaction control wheels, so if I were to flip it, it would be difficult to flip it back. Huh, olivine looks like it was created by water. Was there oceans on Minmus? Well, there's more for us to check out. Whole origin story of Minmus here. Time to drive back to our space plane. We have all the science we need. We've completed everything for our contracts. Just need to get home safely, which can be kind of tricky if you can imagine that. Minmus has some hills, and if you aren't watching what you're doing when you take off, if you take off too level, you might actually run into one of these mountains. So we're going to try and be careful. Not that I would, ever not pay attention to what I'm doing and smack my plane into the ground or anything. We'll just have a nice easy takeoff and make our burn to eject Minmus here and get maybe around 40,000 meters above Kerbal so we can aero brake. I don't think we're set up for a proper just landing right away. I'm going to tilt my aircraft while I'm landing or while I'm aero braking and trying to change our inclination just a little bit. It looks like, yeah, if we do a deorbit burn right here close to the desert launch site, we can, I think, time things, a little inclination change, and we're going to come right over the Space Center. We have a chance of, launching from Minmus and landing right back at the runway. So I'm going to try and do that. I'm a little concerned. This is a steeper angle than I would normally do this because I just did the one aero braking pass. And we are a little shallow from where I'd like to be. I'd like to be about 4,000 meters higher at this point. I don't have it. We are a few hundred meters per second slower than I'd like to be. So I'm going to burn these engines, hopefully push this plane the rest of the way. We're just a few hundred meters per second, 200 meters per second slower than I'd like to be. Probably another last little puff with these engines. This is a vacuum engine, not great for atmospheric flight, but enough that maybe we can push ourselves just to the runway. We've got enough speed now. Not that we have any more Delta V left, so hopefully Jeb can glide this thing to the runway. Take it easy. Perfect. Good job, Jeb. That is almost 1,000 units of science, so we have over 1,100 units of science to spend. If you have any ideas of what we should research, go ahead and leave your ideas in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. You have wonderful things that we should do and spend it on. So I want you to feel a part of the series. Give your ideas like Reinhart did. If you think something sounds interesting, go ahead, let me know, because this is about fun. It's a video game. So if something seems fun to you, let me know. I like to have fun. I'm hoping you're having fun watching this series as well. Let's do one more flight contract. Here is one to haul a few passengers over to the desert airfield. That should be too hard of an assignment. Now there is one more contract up here to check out these desert pyramids. And if you're familiar with the pyramids at all, you'll know they're very close to the desert launch site. So we can do both of these missions because we're going to be flying right by there anyway. Let's build a quick little passenger plane for this mission. We've got some new aircraft parts that I'd like to try out. We got to use the Panther engine last time, but I don't think I'm going to need that this time. Let's try making something a little different. I don't know, I like making planes. I think they're fun. What do you guys really like doing? You know, if you like planes, I mean, you're watching this series where I'm making a lot of planes, so hopes you like planes too. We'll throw on enough fuel. I don't think we need a lot of fuel. We're just flying to the desert airfield and back. We look pretty good that way. Throw on some landing gear. I want to keep this wide because we're going to land in the desert where it's not ideal. So keep it stable so it won't flip over. We are cleared to depart. Let's set the desert launch site as our target, and we will fly over there. You can see I'm kind of yawing to the left a little bit. I think that's because I left my joystick plugged in and I was getting some kind of residual signal from it or something. I'm not quite sure. Actually, it could even be my steering wheel or something. I'm not sure. But it wasn't enough to cause too much an issue. So we're going to zip over. There is the pyramids. We flew right over them. And then there is the airfield. So we'll go and visit the pyramids on the way back. Take it easy with this landing. Complete our contract there. We have to wait a few seconds here on the ground while passengers load and unload or whatever. Here we go. Clear to take off. We'll set the pyramid as our destination and head over there. And they're really close. And if you haven't been there and you want to start the desert launch site, we almost head due east from the desert airfield to find these pyramids. And here we are. I see a glimpse of them. So take it easy. There's not a great place to land here, but we have a small airplane, so we don't need a huge runway. We can kind of take advantage of these hills, kind of land going uphill a little bit, and then roll back down. These are some interesting structures. I wonder, are there any other pyramids around or anything else on Kerbal to discover? If you guys know of any other cool locations to check out, you can leave those in the comments as well. Are there any pyramids anywhere else in the Kerbal system? Who built these? Interesting geological site here. Now we just need to go back. We completed the one contract. Take it easy. It's hard to get in. Okay, we'll set the airfield as our destination and take off. What could be easier? Just take it easy on the takeoff here and oops, kind of broke our tail fin. We don't need that, do we? Well, fortunately, the reaction wheels are powerful enough in the cockpit that I can compensate for a lack of yaw control with just the reaction wheels in there. If we were playing with Ferrum Aerospace Research, we would not be able to fly this thing very well at all. But we're not. We're using the stock aerodynamic physics, so we're in good shape. Sometimes you really gotta like the stock physics. We are clear to land. There we go. And Jeb is flying this beautifully without any kind of tail. I can tell I'm slipping around a little bit with the yaw authority there, but we are close enough that Jeb has pulled it off. Good job, Jeb. We'll recover the plane, get a few funds from this. My channel has turned 1 year old this week. Thank you all for being a part of that, for liking and subscribing. And if you have any ideas, let me know for future content. I am Echo3, and thanks for joining me for this modded career mode discussion. I will see you next time.